I think we're going to move on to our final but awesome presentation from Michelle Sturgis. And I will go ahead and introduce Michelle right now. Michelle Sturgis is currently a PhD candidate in the department. She studies representations of difference and identity in the media using Black feminist critical cultural communication theories and methods. As an interdisciplinary scholar, her work draws on the fields of Black studies and critical mixed race studies, gender and sexuality studies, American studies, and comic studies. She is concurrently working on 3 graduate certificates at the University of Washington in science, technology, and society studies, gender and sexuality studies, and public scholarship. Michelle was also recently awarded a K. Patricia Cross Future Leaders Award with the Association of American Colleges and Universities. And we are so thrilled that she's able to be with us tonight to present her research. Michelle, take it away.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you for introducing me, and thank you, Christine, for inviting me to this. And so I'm going to share my screen here with you all. Can I get a thumbs up that you see? All right, cool. Thank you. So the title of my dissertation is The Political Aesthetics of Black Girl Magic, Self-Representation in Alternative Media. In 2019, Mako set me up really well for this. In 2019, Google attempted to answer a question: what is Black Girl Magic? And I would not be a true media scholar if I did not share a piece of media with you. It's very brief.
Our magic is in our love and tears, our fears and our flyness.
I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Woo, child, tired of the foolish, gone dust your shoulders off. Keep it moving, yeah, slow. Step into some new kicks, in there, swimwear, going to the pool quick. Come now, come dry your eyes. You know you a star, you can touch the sky. I know that it's hard, but you have to try. If you need advice, let me simplify.
Change the world, we've already started.
You must never be defeated, ever.
I do my hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feel?
I am black and proud.
The future belongs to all of us. Feeling good as hell. Baby, how you feeling?
Search on are Google's final words to all the magic makers included in this 1-minute advertisement. Although a miss from the ad, Kashawn Thompson is widely accepted as the creator of this femme phenomena, Black Girl Magic. Citing the vitriol spewed at Serena Williams, the tennis mogul shown raising her triumphant fist and racket into the air at the end of this clip, Thompson says the negativity she witnessed on Twitter towards the 23-time Grand Slam champion, mother, designer, entertainer, and philanthropist led to her naming the grassroots ideology. Thompson's social media and fashion campaign meant to counter the gendered racism that Black femmes have experienced and must strategically navigate responses to. Starting off as hoodies branded with the phrase, "Black girls are ... magic," written in the font from the TV show Bewitched, the sparkling aesthetic and catchphrase was promoted by celebrities like the young actress Amanda Stenberg, who I write about in the dissertation. Though the phrase was already in use in online spaces, Thompson's organizing, as well as the subsequent copyright dispute between Thompson, Essence Magazine, and Beverly Bond with Black Girls Rock, led to the popularization of the term between 2013 and 2016. Queer Black women strategically represent themselves in the alternative media they create using politicized femme aesthetics. Surveying comics, video art, independent publications, artist books, public art, and creative communities, this project analyzes the visual culture of Black Girl Magic. It uses critical cultural communication and media studies to stage an interdisciplinary conversation between Black studies, critical mixed race studies, gender and sexuality studies, and the digital humanities about the work of artists who speak across difference in the service of self-definition, social justice, and change. As you can see in a drawing from one of my chapters, I use my own positionality as a starting point for mapping the mechanics of Black Girl Magic. I identify as a communication scholar because the state of the scholarly field itself reflects my own ontologically based epistemes. Within my scholarship, I practice communicating who I am, even if how I am me is constantly a shifting performance amidst a continuously evolving context. My dissertation examines how Black Girl Magic is a quotidian performance that challenges intersectionally oppressive representations of Black women that continually replicate historical violence. Understanding the grammars of media as onto-representational, meaning the form of the media embodies its representational harm, I then pivot to alternative media as opening up a poetic channel for what I refer to as Afrofeminist critique. In 5 different case studies of queer Black femme artists, I document how each utilizes visual strategies and aesthetic choices that can best be described through the metaphor of witchcraft. Picking up from Kara Keeling's explanation of The Witch's Flight from 2007, wherein Black femmes depart from the cinematic as an image of common sense and therefore subvert the political economy of racialized capitalism and patriarchy, I then describe 2 other key attributes of Black Girl Magic as Brew and Brewed. Brew delves into the material craft of Black feminist poetics, and Brewed signifies the communities of creativity that foster such craft. Each of these captures a politicized aesthetic. The first is an embodiment of political economy and gestures of departure that counter conventional logics of time. The second is the materiality of Black feminist poetics and the outcomes of turning, quote, silence into language and action, as Audre Lorde calls it. And the third is about the libidinal ecology of community, or drawing on Lorde's uses of the erotic to better understand communication across difference. Across these visualized speech acts, I show how alternative media can afford a creative agency of the socially minoritized who speak across difference for self-definition. In doing so, they engage in dialogic exchanges that create co-constitutive ways of being, as opposed to being split or separate. Looking at the aesthetics of Black Girl Magic using methods such as textual analysis, research creation, curation, and autoethnography, I explain how the split subject archetype points to the ways in which the embodied human experience is dialectically formed through communication. This is how I've mapped my dissertation then into 3 parts to demonstrate how self-representation and alternative media capture these political ideologies in various aesthetic choices. So the first 2 chapters of the dissertation unpacks how the cosplay performance of the character Penny Roll from the comic Bitch Planet and Amandla Stenberg's YouTube videos reflect and resist the split self. And so in the first chapter or case study, I do a star study of Amandla, and I look at the different representations, the ways in which she's confined to specific stereotypes that follow the Black multiracial woman in Hollywood film. And then I look to her Tumblr and her works on YouTube to see how she departs from that. In the comic Bitch Planet, I focus in on Penny Roll, who, as her tattoo says here on the cover, she's born big. And I think about and I analyze the ways in which the comic panels themselves continually punish Penny's body as she's drawn often too big for the comic panel. For example, in one scene, she's actually beheaded when everybody else's heads fit just fine within the panel. And so the following 2 chapters then turn to alternative dissertation forms and instead includes the research creation of my own artist book, Witch, depicted here, and a digital curation of artist books. And so Witch, this is a picture from the Jacob Lawrence Gallery where we had a pop-up exhibit, and it's comprised of 30 different boxes, and each of these boxes make up a page in the artist book that I'm creating, or that I've created. And this is a sneak peek at the curation that I'm working on, wherein Black book artists are rethinking how the Black woman's body is made. And so I kind of threw some of these together, but you can kind of see how Alyssa Banks is thinking about the head and hair, and Lorna Simpson is thinking about like the skeletal like system and different materials that make up our structures. Adrienne Piper's book up in the top right-hand corner called Colored People, she's thinking about the ways in which we're colored in. And I try to throw my own work in there, thinking about liquid Blackness, and what does it mean when we're wrongly bodied, as Clarissa Sly puts it. So in the last case study, I looked at various creative communities such as the Independent Publishing Resource Center in Portland and a series of virtual salons I hosted this past September, along with interviews and field notes from the work I've done with Dr. Relina Joseph, who is my chair, working with her in the Interrupting Privilege program and the Generation Mix Goes to School book, as well as my time in the Black Embodiment Studio with Dr. Kemi Adeyemi, who is in the Gender, Women's Sexuality Studies department. And I look at all of these to show how local independent publishers and artists of color challenge conventional norms of representation by taking it into their own hands as a form of collective self-definition and alternative world building. So these chapters culminate as a digital humanities endeavor that documents how queer Black women communicate their identities across difference while simultaneously rethinking the ways in which such scholarship can be limited by past and current archival sciences and code. Creating an interdisciplinary and multi-methodological digital dissertation about Black girl magic and alternative media contravenes the traditionally written dissertation in content and format. It demonstrates my own subversive movement through the academy, that's flight. It challenges the materiality of knowledge production, that's the brew. And it demonstrates my capacity to maintain strong networks of scholarship and creativity, and that's the brewed. So this praxis is my Black girl magic. Although Google exerts its power over answering what Black girl magic is, my research has shown that truly, in fact, the thing that makes Black girl magic so generative within our world is its very ability to evade being defined as any one thing in particular. And yet it still carries material valences in our lives and communities. But perhaps Afomia Asefa, an undergraduate artist, says it best. And this was captured during one of the salons in September. She says, "That's the magic, where you go from being an observer in your life and in other people's lives to owning yourself in your own story. Art allows us to tap into our own power and self-love and the capacity to heal through our own capacity to change." Although Black girl magic is evasive, what I have learned is that queer Black women make and define themselves not necessarily in contradistinction to the colonizer's gaze. In the words of communication scholar Richard L. Wright, African Americans do language to continually recreate themselves and their worlds. In addition to this interiority, queer Black women strategically use politicized aesthetics to speak back to power through self-representations and alternative media as a means of communicating across difference. Black girl magic is a lived Afro-feminist critique, and this is a word I'm fashioning from a few places, including the social movement that's coming out of France for Black feminism, the virtual reality media project entitled Neurospeculative Afrofeminism made by Hyphen Lab, and I'm also drawing on Sydney Fontaine Lewis's description of feminist critique, which she describes as strutting across time and space. Afrofeminist critique is different than Afro-pessimism, and that it is predicated on the establishment of the first part, which is that self-definition exists outside the master's tools as it existed prior to capture. It is also different than Afrofuturism, in that while it is interested in meddling with the mechanics of time and space, it is not oriented specifically towards futurity. So, thank you.